Southeast Asia countries are most known as ASEAN. The location of Southeast Asian countries is the collective of the island and peninsula that has various of mountainous region that can see at Myanmar, plateaus that near at Thailand and Vietnam, river and more. Southeast Asia countries is the region that easily to accessible. Southeast Asia countries is surrounded by variation of the structure coral reef. ASEAN was established on 8 August 1967 in Bangkok. The country of Southeast Asia is Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Brunei, Singapore, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Philippines, and the last one is Myanmar. Although this country of Southeast Asia, we choose Singapore. Singapore is the largest country in the number of residents. The area of Singapore is 270 square miles. Singapore has separated by the Strait of Johor. Singapore gets the independence in 1965. Next, we will talk on the background of Singapore and discuss the domestic issue in Singapore.
A 3rd century Chinese account described it as Pulau Cheng, referring to Pulau Ujung, which means the island at the end of peninsula in the Malay language. Later, the city was known as Temasek or Sitang. During the 14th century, this small but strategically located island earned a new name. According to legend, Sang Nila Utama, a prince from Palembang, the capital of Srivijaya, was out hunting trip when he caught a sight of animal he had never seen before. Taking it to be a good sign, he founded a city where the animal had been spotted, naming it the Lion City, or Singapura, from the Sanskrit word Simba, lion, and Pura, city. In 1959, the growth of nationalism led to the self-government and the country's first general election. The People's Action Party (PAP) won a majority of 43 seats and Lee Kuan Yew became the first Prime Minister of Singapore. In 1963, Malaysia was formed, comprising the Federation of Malaya, Singapore, Sarawak and Sabah. The move was meant to foster closer ties. However, Singapore merger proved unsuccessful, and less than 2 years later, on 9 August 1965, it left Malaysia to become an independent and sovereign democratic nation. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) is a regional grouping founded on 8 August 1967 by Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand and the Philippines to promote economic growth, social progress and cultural development in Southeast Asian region. Chinese Buddhism happens to be the major religion in Singapore, owing to the large population of Southern Chinese immigrants and their descendants. Hinduism is also prevalent, being the faith of those with South Indian heritage. Christianity is growing quite exponentially as a belief system, and many young Singaporeans are leaning towards it. The language of Singapore are English, Malay, Tamil, and Mandarin Chinese. Singapore cuisine. The local cuisine of Singapore is majorly influenced by Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Indonesian dishes.
Singapore is a parliamentary republic based on the Westminster system. The Constitution of Singapore is the supreme law of the country, establishing the structure and responsibility of government. Singapore's current President Halimah Yacob is head of state and exercises executive power on the advice of her minister, while their current Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong is head of government and is appointed by the President as the person most likely to command the confidence of a majority of Parliament. The Istana is the official residence and office of the President, as well as the working office of the Prime Minister. Singapore has 3 branches of government, which are executive, legislative, and judiciary. As a small nation-state, Singapore strongly supports ASEAN's goal of building a strong, prosperous, and rules-based ASEAN. The Asian Community, comprising the Asian Political Security Community, the Asian Economic Community, and the Asian Socio-Cultural Community, was established on 31st December 2015.
Here's the background of economy in Singapore. Singapore is a high-income economy. The country provides one of the world's most business-friendly regulatory environment for local entrepreneurs. After independence, Singapore rapidly developed from a low-income country to a high-income country. GDP growth in the city-state has been amongst the world's highest, at an average of 7.7% since independence and topping 9.2%. There are reasons behind the economic success in Singapore, which is the strategic location of the island, the friendly policies and efficient and harnessed government. Singapore maintaining growth forecast of 2021 at 5.5%. Singapore's economic recovery was already expected to slow to 3% to 5% growth in 2022 from about 7% 2021 year, according to the Trade Ministry. ASEAN is one of the main factors of successful economy for Singapore. ASEAN helped economic growth Singapore by facilitating the movement of goods, services, investment, capital and skills. Social background in Singapore. The social system of Singapore is ethnicity and associations. In Singapore society, there are 5 broad social classes, which is fractional upper, upper middle, intermediate middle, lower middle, and working class. Move into some social statistics in Singapore. First is Singapore residents by group and June 2019. The darker orange is Malaya, lighter orange is Chinese, darker grey is Indian, and lighter grey is ethnic. Chinese is the majority of residents. Next is statistic resident by gender. The population keep on increase by years. The last one is total marriage by marriage order till 2018. It shows the total of marriage is not fixed by years. This is 8 social policy in Singapore: housing, independence, living expenses, mental well-being, jobs, education, self-improvement, and lastly is saving. ASEAN social progress also for Singapore. The first is the ASEAN community, second is life expectancy in ASEAN, third is access to safe drinking water, fourth is access to improved sanitation, 5 adult literacy rate in ASEAN, and the last one is tertiary enrollment in ASEAN.
On 10 July 2020, Singapore held its general elections during the pandemic. Having an election in the middle of a pandemic is not only distasteful, but presents important risks like spreading infections and depreciating democratic legitimacy. In-person voting involves lining up and touching polling booth equipment, which can be dangerous without careful procedures. Furthermore, COVID-related measures that were introduced under the parliamentary elections failed to ensure a fair campaigning process during the pandemic or protect the voting rights of specific groups like the Sikh and overseas voters. To make matters more complicated, voting is deemed compulsory in Singapore, where citizens are expected to show up and cast their vote at polling stations that are set up across the country. For those who should have voted but did not, their name will be removed from the register of electors, and these non-voters will then no longer be allowed to vote at subsequent elections and are disqualified from being an election candidate in the future.
Good social security system is needed in every country to protect citizens. It enables people to bounce back and keep up with the future challenges. In Singapore, with its technological disruption, three security challenges are polarization, radicalization, and cyber threats. Singapore's security sector resembles that of other Asian countries in its technocratic, liberal, and comprehensive security-oriented aspects. Their governance is exercised solely in a top-down fashion. On radicalization, cyberspace has become the front line where terrorist and political opportunities spread propaganda, recruit followers, and coordinate attacks. Political polarization has become an issue that pits people against one another and undermines the cohesion of the country. The new technological revolution is resulting in an explosion of big data, as well as breakthroughs in automation and robotics, among other consequences. Singapore is working on building confidence domestically to counter the spread of radical ideas, hateful ideologies, and instead focusing on promoting social unity. These challenges are complex and pervade the domestic and international spheres. To protect national unity and social harmony, platforms like APPSNO were used. It helps foster closer collaboration and more effective collection action within Singapore and other regions. Singapore rapidly developed from a low-income country to a high-income country. GDP growth in the city-state has been amongst the world's highest at an average of 7.7% since independence and topped 9.2% in the first 25 years. The Singaporean economy grew 7.2% last year, rebounding from a pandemic-induced 5.4% contraction in 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic caused massive global economic disruptions in 2020. Singapore was not spared as the economy recorded its worst full-year recession since independence. The economy had to grapple with both demand and supply shocks, such as fall in the external demand for goods and services produced in Singapore, caused by the economic slowdown in major economies, global travel restrictions, and the implementation of the circuit breaker. The economy expanded 7.6% last year through manufacturing, finance, and insurance, as well as wholesale trades. While the rapid spread of the Omicron variant may weigh down on Singapore's first quarter GDP performance, the new COVID-19 variant is looking to have a low economic impact on the country. Omicron looks set to be relatively mild and brief. Economic recovery in Singapore is expected to be back on track soon. A social issue is a problem that affects many people within a society. In Singapore, the pandemic brought many issues to light, such as mental health getting worse, job losses, and local business closures. Low-income households struggled badly with their finances due to the loss of their jobs because of COVID. A breaker measure was used for a stay-at-home order and preventive measure of COVID-19 by the government of Singapore. It affected household care such as children's education, care for the elderly, and care for persons with special needs. The government, private sector, and community-based organizations must provide continued monitoring and support for categories of people affected by COVID-19 mitigation. They need to ensure it does not create longer-term social and economic vulnerabilities. The social consequences of COVID-19 mitigation affected the well-being of all segments of society, regardless of income, race, gender, or age. It caused psychological harm, emotional distress, and domestic tension. The government and community-based organizations need to always be ready to help citizens struggling post-COVID-19 recovery.
To be concluded, Singapore can prove to the other country even they are the smallest country, but Singapore has many achievements in all terms of history, political, economy and social. Also, Singapore very conducive to the family and children. This is because the people of Singapore can live harmony and safe. Other than that, Singapore is the safe place and has a good environment. This is because Singapore has a great schooling option, heaven for foodies, safe and secure environment. The rare of the Singapore country that look different with other is Singapore has a high level of law and the punishment. Also, because of the weather of Singapore is hot and humid, with frequent instances of rain, but the people of Singapore are very love to do the outdoor activity, which is hiking, jogging, and more. This can make the level of healthy is good and the people can work or study in well. Hence, all term can be protected. Lastly, the unique about Singapore can give the benefit to their country and the other member of ASEAN country, which is the aspect of economy, political, social, and also the history and culture. This is because can exchange the idea with other country. That's all from us about country of Singapore. Thank you.